Hello and welcome back. It's time for another exciting book talk video. Today is Tuber Tuesday, and I need to give you my reading wrap up for June 2021. This year, each month, I've been doing book battles as my monthly wrap ups. I think it's so much fun. I hope that you enjoy them. Feel free to give me feedback down below in the comments section. Before I get into the actual brackets, let's talk overview. This will give you a chance to pick which book or books that you want to root for in the book battle for whichever one that's going to win. In June, I read 14 books. I know that sounds like a lot, but a couple of them were short. I divided the books into 4 brackets, so let's talk about what I'm including in each bracket. For the historical bracket, I read The Remnants, Book 2, The Grasping Root, The Remnants, Book 3, Stormrack and Spindrift, Crime and Punishment, which I tried reading when I was younger, but I don't think I actually finished it, so it was somewhat of a reread for me, but I was glad to finish it. And Homegoing, which was really good. There are actually a lot of books titled Homegoing when I looked it up online, but this is the one by Giassi, which was really good. For the fantasy bracket, I read the prequel to The Wheel of Time, New Spring, and I read The Wheel of Time books 6 and 7. I also read Watership Down, which is another book that I might have experienced when I was younger, but kind of forgot about the plot and all that, so it may have been a reread. I know it sounds odd to say I don't really remember, but, sometimes you read books when you're a child and you're not sure later on if you really read them or not. So I don't think I'd fully read it. I probably saw it on TV as a cartoon movie or something. I'm not entirely sure, but I did enjoy it. For the suspense bracket, I've actually only got 2 books. The Ivies by Alexa Dunn and Darkest Hours Expanded Edition by Mike Thorne, which when I was editing the video for that one when I did my review, I realized I accidentally said Extended Edition instead of Expanded Edition. My bad. And then I've got the other category where I've got 4 books. Support Your Local Sheriff and Support Your Local Gunfighter are both comedy westerns, and there are movies for them starring James Garner as a character who comes across very similarly to the Maverick character that he played for years and years. But the funny thing with that is Goodreads doesn't even have an entry for Support Your Local Gunfighter. They did have Support Your Local Sheriff on there. These books are kind of rare because they were film adaptation novels, and I guess they probably weren't that popular. They're very thin, very tiny books as well. And then in the other category, I also have the great science fiction novel that is book 5 in the Red Rising series, Dark Age, and a teacher book called A Novel Approach. That poor teacher book probably shouldn't be in the book battle. I should probably toss it out, but it gives me 4 in my other categories, so I'm leaving it. It just feels unfair to compare books that I read for online seminars and workshops and for teacher stuff to the fun fiction novels. But oh well. We'll go ahead and throw it in there anyway. Let's look to that first bracket for the battle. We've got 2 books by Margaret Pinard in the same series. Remnants books 2 and 3, The Grasping Root and Stormrack and Spindrift. Of those 2 books, the question comes down to which one did I enjoy more, and that's going to be book 2, because the character Neil was a standout character for me, enduring so many hardships in his life, but continuing to be such a kind, wonderful, hardworking person. I just love the character. And I don't want to give you spoilers, but horrible things happen to him in book 3. So, book 3 is going to go by the wayside. Book 2 is advancing in this bracket. So, on the other half of the bracket, we've got Crime and Punishment, the great classic by Dostoevsky, against Homegoing by Giassi. Of those 2 books, I've got to say it's a tough one because they're both really enjoyable. I got a lot out of both of them. Ultimately, though, Homegoing is going to lose this one just because it ends up feeling more like a collection of short stories, because the chapters go generation to generation across many different generations. And even though they do link together in some ways, it wasn't exactly the narrative that I was expecting it to be. So Crime and Punishment gets the win for the two of them. And that means, to determine the winner of our historical fiction bracket, we've got The Grasping Root up against Crime and Punishment. Oh, that's a tough one. They're both exciting novels with twists and turns. There's a lot you get both for the characters and understanding what was going on in history at the time. I think I like the character Neil more, though, than the characters in Crime and Punishment. So I'm going to advance The Grasping Root. Congratulations. This book by Margaret Pinard is going to win our historical fiction bracket for today for the month of June. Let's move on to the next bracket. It's our fantasy bracket. These Wheel of Time books up against Watership Down. Oh, it's a tough call. I will say for the first two, our Wheel of Time prequel against Wheel of Time book 6. I'm gonna go with the prequel. If you watched my review video about the prequel, then you know I really enjoyed it more than the books in the main series in the Wheel of Time. One, because it was shorter and more focused on the characters, their motivations, what they were up to, but also because I felt like it was a really great setup with world building that helped to understand the settings. So New Spring is advancing in this bracket. That leaves Wheel of Time book 7 against Watership Down. Watership Down, supposedly the author said, is not meant to be allegorical or metaphorical for some social issues or what was going on in the world at the time, but I feel like it could have been. I know the author said it wasn't, but I was reading into it perhaps more than the author intended. I loved it. The rabbits and the journey they go on is very interesting, so I'm advancing it above the Wheel of Time book 7, which means we then have to look at the prequel New Spring against Watership Down. Which do I go with? I'm gonna say the story of those rabbits actually was more entertaining than what was going on with Moraine and Schwann and Lan in the New Spring books. So Watership Down wins our fantasy bracket for the month. Oh, that's so exciting. So out of the historical bracket and the fantasy bracket, we've had one book each advance. Let's now look at our suspense bracket. Unfortunately, I don't have 4 books here. I did not read 16 books this month. So we've got the Ivies up against Darkest Hours Expanded Edition, and then that'll just determine the winner for the suspense bracket. The Ivies was a lot of fun. Alexa Dunn wrote an entertaining mystery thriller story here, but I'm going to give the win to Darkest Hours. It's a short story collection that has Mike Thorne's notes, the author's notes after each story, of what horror stories and horror films inspired him with each story, why he wrote it, and I think that's really awesome to get. So Darkest Hours Expanded Edition moves up. It wins our suspense bracket. And now that quickly takes us to the bracket we're calling the other bracket, or a miscellaneous bracket for the month. The 2 books that are Support Your Local Sheriff and Support Your Local Gunfighter up against each other. I do want you to know that even if you can't get your hands on these books, you can watch the film versions. Right now where I'm at, YouTube has them for free with advertisements, so you can stream them online. You may be entertained by the comedy and such in them, or you might just think they're old goofy movies, I don't know. But out of the 2 of them, I enjoyed Support Your Local Sheriff more. I found the character to be somewhat more enjoyable, but it's close between them because James Garner does such a great job playing this character. So Support Your Local Sheriff advances. For the other half of this bracket, we've got science fiction with Red Rising Book 5 Dark Age up against a teacher book, A Novel Approach. Really no contest there. Dark Age is going to advance in this one. We end up thus with Support Your Local Sheriff against Red Rising's Dark Age, and between the 2 of them, I really feel like the science fiction novel is much better. It's got a lot of different points of view if you're familiar with the Red Rising series. The original 3 books were really just following Darrow. We got more characters we're following here. It's an interesting journey. So Dark Age gets to advance. That gives us 4 books going into our semifinals rounds. Historical bracket, fantasy bracket, suspense bracket, and the other bracket becomes science fiction. So what are the odds that these would be my 4 categories for semifinals, since I love reading these kind of books so much? And the suspense bracket's really horror at this point, not just suspense in general. So let's match up The Grasping Root against Watership Down. Watership Down is a classic in fantasy. Story of those rabbits on their journey trying to survive. So very interesting. But The Grasping Root is historical fiction about a family trying to survive. Both cases have characters who've moved to new places, who are looking for mates in order to create a next generation of characters. I think in the end, I like the Neil character from The Grasping Root even more than I like the rabbits in Watership Down. So congratulations, The Grasping Root, you're moving to finals. And then our other half of semifinals is Darkest Hours against Red Rising 5, The Dark Age. Oh, hey, they both have dark in the title. Darkest Hours and Dark Age, I just noticed that. So we have some dark times here. Some scary things that are happening in the world. And of these, Darkest Hours is a short story collection. Dark Age is science fiction with different points of view. It's not short stories, but the different points of view have to converge in different ways. I'm gonna say that really, even though I love the Red Rising series, I'm advancing Darkest Hours. I enjoyed the horror sensations in this collection. For some reason, feeling uncomfortable, throwing up in my mouth. Not sure if I was going to be physically sick reading it. It was fun having those different emotions. So Darkest Hours, you're advancing to the finals. And oh my goodness, that means it's a tough finals round with Margaret Pinard's Remnants Book 2, The Grasping Root, against Mike Thorne's Darkest Hours Expanded Edition. Both of these are authors that you can find online who will happily interact with the community. Margaret Pinard regularly does live talks on YouTube and puts comments in the comments section in people's videos. She's wonderful about that. Mike Thorne also is very open to doing interviews, appearing on people's YouTube channels. They're both friendly, nice authors. Both of these are interesting works of literature to read. One of them is historical fiction, the other one is horror. I am stuck with the dilemma that it's difficult to do the contrast, the compare and contrast with these two. Part of that is because one of them is a novel that's in the middle of a trilogy, and the other one is a short story collection with essays and explanations. I am going to declare a tie for the second time this year, and I don't intend to do ties very often. I think it's a very special event that will cause a tie, but I don't want to pick between these two, so they're both going to win for the month, and I think that that's very exciting. And I'm also thinking forward to how my eventual end of the year book battle's gonna go down. So since I've had 2 ties, now that's, I suppose, good news because there are only 12 months in the year. And that means now I'm gonna have 14 books to put into my end of the year book battle, which will create at least a solid sense of 4 brackets for us to deal with. Maybe we'll do 1 or 2 wild cards to flesh out the last couple spots there. I hope that you've enjoyed the book battle. June was a great, relaxing reading month for me. Instead of having a solid TBR, it was a pile of possibilities. I read what I wanted when I wanted, and that was good. That was a lot of fun. Alright, that's it for today's book battle and book talk. Every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.